Work is the power. Work is the power that makes our world go round, turning the gears, spinning the wheels of industry and commerce. A global village driven by an endless cycle of supply and demand, the self-perpetuating need to produce and consume. Produce and consume. But the way of our world is changing. We live in a time of flux. We live in an age of chaos. And the world isn't working like it used to. On the brink of millennium, time is running out for long-cherished notions of work and the workplace. In the new global economy, where technology is the engine and information the currency that shapes the market, the barriers of old are falling by the day. Not just the barriers of routine and bureaucracy that keeps us from overstepping our mark, exploring our potential, but the very walls that surround us while we earn our daily bread. Now, at last, work is being liberated from the workplace, freed from the crushing constraints of the weekday 9 to 5. No longer is an office in the city the working definition of an appropriate working environment. Now, your work is wherever you are. Now, your workplace is wherever you want to be.
Cape Town, the fairest cape in all the world. An idyllic city at the southern tip of Africa, perfectly positioned between the sea and the mountains. All things being equal, wouldn't you choose to live and work in an environment like this? In the heart of the city, on the slopes of Table Mountain, perhaps within earshot of a babbling brook. You could work from 9 to 5 or from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. The choice would be yours. But let's be realistic for a moment. Cape Town, as beautiful and well connected as it is, may be just a little too far off the map for comfort. In global terms, it's 10,000 kilometers from London's financial heart, 18,000 kilometers from Tokyo's Akihabara district. It's even 1,600 kilometers away from the hub of South African business. So what? This is the information economy. The barriers of time and distance have fallen. As long as you're wired, as long as you're connected, as long as you're plugged into the network, you can be anywhere you want to be. That is the secret of the new workplace.
Global telecommunications, television, email, the World Wide Web, laptop technology, and cellular networks have erased the boundaries between nations and put mobility on the line. A revolution has taken root, its branches reaching across the globe. And yet, we still cling to the habits, the patterns, the traditions of a different age. For most of us, the virtual office remains a dream. The workplace remains the workplace. We have yet to break free.
Think about where you work. Think about the way you work. Do you have a private office in a big building? Do you work open plan? Do you look forward to going to work in the morning, especially after the relaxation and fun of the weekend? Is your business becoming more complex and competitive? Would you say it's easier to be a manager today than it was, say, 5 to 10 years ago? Has the workplace become more empowered, more liberating? You're joking, you say. It's more demanding and it's more bureaucratic. Does this sound familiar? Does it have to be this way? Will it always be this way? The fact is that things have already changed more than you may realize. As a manager, your workplace has already moved largely away from the office. Thanks to your fax, your cell phone, your laptop computer, you're as likely to be working in your car, in hotel rooms, airline lounges, and on board planes. And yet, the economics of the office are still based on a potential availability of 168 hours a week. In reality, you're probably spending less than 20 hours there. That's poor economics. More than 30 hours, and you begin to feel you're not getting into the market enough. Work, work, work. No wonder it's a 4-letter word. There's nothing new about the notion of having to work for a living, but the actual concept of work, as we know it, has only been around for some 200 years in its current form. Before then, business was conducted by individual entrepreneurs who met at markets to trade their wares and services. They were essentially self-employed, serving a community in which they were personally well known. Then came the railways, allowing goods to be transported and sold beyond the village market, beyond the village itself. The advent of the telephone stretched these distances even further. Now, the producer was able to negotiate with merchants far afield. But the new system also meant that the producer was far removed from the locals and their cozy village marketplace. A new way of communicating product information had to be found. And so the brand was born. Business, industry and work would never be the same. The village went global. Business boomed, production soared. Higher volumes, bigger production lines and bigger organizations, with layers of management to issue instructions downwards and consolidate information upwards. A new organizational model was born, the pyramid.
The pyramids of ancient Egypt, timeless, mysterious, compelling, monumental symbols of the birth of civilization. But the pyramids also serve as valuable symbols of the way organizations are evolving today. The industrial organizational hierarchy can be seen as a pyramid composed of three distinct layers. At the top, a small group of so-called significant people, the managerial and executive elite. At the bottom, a very large group of so-called insignificant people, at least in individual terms. In between, the professionals, the technical and middle management core. Through the development of what came to be called scientific management, the so-called insignificant have become even more insignificant. Standing in awe of the professionals and the elite in their power buildings, built to house the expanding hierarchies of expanding organizations.
Even today, the organization often appears to be more important than the business, at least from the perspective of the customer and the marketplace. Large organizations often stand accused of being faceless, unable to see or respond to market needs. The middle management core increasingly appears to have only one primary purpose: to maintain the organization. Real decision-making power is focused at the top half of the pyramid, while the market knowledge is located in the bottom half. A dangerous separation. These organizational hierarchies are solid, rigid and immovable, relics of the distant past, like the pyramid of Cheops just outside Cairo. But the explosion of global competitiveness in the last 20 years has forced many companies to reconsider the effectiveness of the Cheops organizational model. They have downsized, re-engineered, reorganized around the customer and market needs. And so, today's organizational pyramids look different. They have begun to represent the oldest stone structure on the planet, the pyramid at Saqqara, 35 kilometers south of Cairo. It's as if some corporate surgeon has lopped out layers of the pyramid and created a flatter, stepped structure. Downsizing has meant the loss of more than 5 million professional and middle management jobs globally in the past decade. The typical organization now has half as many people on the payroll, earning twice as much and doing 3 times the work. This is the reality of the Saqqara organization.
The organization is evolving. The great squeeze-out has begun. The building blocks of the old order are crumbling, disintegrating. The large old organizations are getting smaller as their downsized fragments form the basis of new interrelated business networks. Evolution has become revolution. Cherished notions and concepts are shattering under the onslaught. The organization as we know it is no more.
fractal organization is the organization of the future. Flexible, adaptable, fragmented, but profoundly market-focused and customer-friendly. An organization that has moved beyond the notions of centralized control and the tyranny of the industrial age hierarchy. Fractal organizations live according to new rules, interacting, connecting, feeding off each other. Bigger is no longer better. Leaner is meaner. It is information that creates the glue that binds players in this fractal landscape. Today's new graduates are no longer seeking secure, comfortable positions in the mega corporations. They want to grow quickly and earn big. And they know they can't achieve this the way their fathers did, by becoming company man. Instead, they seek out small, high-growth companies, which in turn can pick and choose from the best young brains in the market, no matter where they may be. They too are becoming an integral part of this fractal organization.
In the new global economy, the lines between home and the workplace, between occupation and recreation, between time zones and international borders have been blurred beyond recognition. Your work is no longer where you are. Your work is what you do.
If you were in charge of a financial services company that wanted to dominate the smart card segment, I'm sure you'd want to have one of the world's top 5 specialists working on your team. But would you be prepared to offer a package larger than your top executive earns to an 18-year-old whiz kid who wants to become a full-time employee, but without actually moving from his home in Aspen, Colorado? The fact is, more and more people in business today, people who matter, people who make a difference, are choosing to work in their own way, on their own terms. The revolution is here. Has it touched you yet? Fractal organizations know how to work because they know how to network. Typically, a number of small businesses will join together for projects, disassemble, and rejoin other networks as and when opportunities arise. They have no fancy long-term contracts, no expectations of safe and secure lifetime employment. They thrive on win-win relationships, whatever their duration. Fractals are not judged on the number of years they've been in business, or the number of workers on their payroll, or the grandeur of their corporate headquarters. They are judged on one thing and one thing only: the value they can add to their customers. What is the glue that binds these networks of small organizations together? It's the telephone and television networks, the internet, intranets, the World Wide Web, the entire global information infrastructure. And because of it, because of the way it shatters barriers and boundaries, today's fractal organizations are free to fly, free to take to the skies. Watch a flock of birds flying overhead. As they fly in formation, it's clear that there must be a leader. But the leader changes constantly. First one bird, then another. In the same way, there must always be a leader in the fractal business network. But the leader or lead organization changes constantly. And sometimes the leader can lead organizations that include global players, players much larger and more experienced than themselves. It's a higher flying model of freedom in formation, thanks to freedom of information. This slogan appeared on a popular poster in the corridors of the old industrial era IBM. Well, change is in the air. Today, even large organizations are trying to fly like wild ducks. Lack of centralized control is not the downside, it's the essence of the future of business. We are starting to feel more comfortable with these biological models of business behavior. We're no longer surprised that phenomena like the internet can not only exist, but thrive without any kind of central control or ownership. When Woody Allen said 80% of life is really just showing up, he was expressing an everyday reality for the industrial age worker. You have to be there to be considered to be working, and you have to be seen to be trusted. But that model of work just isn't appropriate in today's workplace. Showing up doesn't even have to be part of the equation. Work is what you do, not where you go. Doing it is what counts, producing results, contributing, adding value to customers. If you're running a one-person business, you soon come to understand that there are only two things that matter: knowing your product or service and knowing your customer. If you fulfill these two requirements, everything else follows. Why should it be any different for a large organization? Know your business, know your customer. And yet, in many corporations, there are hundreds of senior managers who never see a customer, who could not even describe the product or services their company sells. In today's economy, such managers, such attitudes, run the very real risk of becoming victims of evolution.
The world is working, but not the way it used to. The seismic shift in the nature of markets, in the very foundation of the economy, is changing everything about the way we work, about the way we perceive, define, and understand the power that makes our world go round. A tidal wave of change is heading our way. For those who are ready to ride it, the risks will be as great as the rewards. For those who are not, wipe out.
As even the largest of corporations gets caught up in this tide and begins to think and act like a small entrepreneurial organization, much of what we now regard as sacred to the running of business will simply fall away. Corporate and head office jobs, middle management, job security, career paths, gone, wiped out. But what would we gain in return? We'd see a rapid rise in small businesses that would take on the functions of design, public relations, advertising, strategy, and engineering. We'd see entrepreneurial ventures within large organizations. We'd see startups backed by corporate venture capital and an explosion of small and micro businesses. We'd see the future, and it would be working. Smaller is better, leaner is meaner. Today's business is not just about showing up, not just about earning a salary. It's about belonging. It's about having a stake. It's about riding the highs and surviving the lows. Small companies thrive on personal risk, chasing after it like a heat-seeking missile. Whether they fail or succeed, they do it spectacularly. And that's why entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial investors seek them out. Look at the phenomenal success of Microsoft, started by a college dropout with a simple vision of bringing computing to the masses. New information age companies are reinventing the rules, refusing to bow to convention. This small software company, spawned from the giant IBM Corporation, has rejected the notion of the office, even for their top executives, and thrives on an abiding principle of radical innovation. If it isn't radical, if it doesn't innovate, they simply don't do it. This financial services company is redefining the role of the broker and the financial advisor in the information age. They've set out to address the fundamental question of the new information economy. How can you add value when the customer has access to the same high-quality information that you have? This internet service provider has an average employee age of close to 20 and has grown by an average of 20% a month over the last 3 years. They started out connecting big corporations to the global network. Now, through massive injections of capital, big business is connecting to them. These are the organizations of the future, challenging the system, changing the system, learning as they go along. They won't always get it right. From time to time, they'll fail. If they do, everyone in the business feels the pain. If they get rich, everyone gets rich. By reintroducing the element of personal risk, these small companies are rewriting the rules of big business. Today, success is based on imagination, innovation, personal risk and reward, the exact qualities that have been engineered out of organizations by the cumbersome bureaucracies of the industrial age. It's time to put these qualities back. It's time to start again. It's time to move.
Postmodern man, the corporate warrior, has become the nomad of our age, working on the move, bridging time and distance. Working from home, working from the office, working around the clock and around the globe. With no end to the working day, no end to opportunity. This is the way of the world. This is the future.
One of the paradoxes of the new way of doing business is that as companies get smaller, so they get more global. You don't have to be big to be worldwide anymore. In 1995, more than half of American exports were produced by companies with less than 500 employees. Everyone can choose to be a global player. In time, everyone will be. The implications of this are profound. Forget about the 9 to 5. The world runs on a 24-hour clock. Somewhere, the working window is always open. What this means, amongst other things, is that job opportunities in the formal sector will shrink. This is my daughter, Victoria. We were discussing future career opportunities and specifically what she would do after she graduates from university. I told her there would simply be no formal opportunities unless she was able to start a few commercial enterprises while still at university. If she can graduate with proven business experience and a first-hand understanding of success, failure and personal risk, everyone would clamour to work with her. She could command any job or professional fee she wanted, and she would probably choose not to join a large organisation. Armed with nothing more than a university degree, she may well be unemployable. And that, Victoria, is the reality of the future.
From imposing discipline to releasing energies, the nature of leadership has changed. A new alchemy of wealth has been created. Raw materials and cheap labour were the touchstones of business in the industrial economy, an economy driven by intense competition for scarce resources. Today, information, knowledge, skills and ideas are what it takes to succeed. These are the raw materials of tomorrow, limited only by the quality of our thinking and our attitude.
In many ways, it seems that we've come full circle, back to where we started 200 years ago, with the entrepreneurial professional taking passionate pride in product and service, adding real value to the village and to the community. The big difference is that the village is the world, the market, the community is wherever you find it. The workplace is wherever you want it to be.
Now the organization is free to change, free to fly. Now power is moving to the individual and the consumer. There are no limits. There are no barriers. Never before in the evolution of man has there been so much freedom, so much choice. Welcome to the company that doesn't exist. Capitalize on the leadership that lies waiting inside every one of you. Welcome to the future. Now, you have the power to make it work. Take it.